We are on the record in the Turner Rodriguez matter, case number D15521-527C.
Okay, thank you, counsel. Your appearances and your bar numbers, starting with the you're representing retained or...
I believe you're plaintiff. Jackson 10584 on behalf of Michael Turner, who's also present.
And you're retained?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Mr. Robbins?
Good morning, Kenneth Robbins, number 13572. I'm unbundled for Ingrid Rodriguez, who is present via Blue Jeans.
All right, thank you. We have Detective, is it Jessica Heredia online here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Detective Heredia. We have her available. If I could just ask some objective questions here. Did your department receive a referral on this case?
Several, yes, ma'am.
Several. Okay, maybe you can elaborate for me and tell me how it came across your department.
In March of 2020, there was an allegation of sexual abuse claimed by Ingrid Rodriguez against Michael Turner in regards to their daughter, Mariella. Ingrid alleged that Mariella disclosed sex abuse by Michael. She was brought for an acute sexual assault kit. When it was conducted, she had normal findings. In a forensic interview that day, she did not disclose sexual abuse. However, Michael was still interviewed. He denied the allegations, and based on the forensic interview, we would not be available to polygraph him. The case was closed with insufficient evidence. He did offer a consensual buccal swab. He offered it voluntarily with his attorneys present, but it's not necessarily applicable given the circumstances of him caring for the child on the vaginal area and assisting her with normal hygiene practices. Ingrid was also interviewed that day. She stated that Mariella is disclosing that Michael touches and licks the vaginal area, and that is what Mariella told Ingrid. Due to COVID and him retaining his attorneys, I did not get to talk to Michael until June. So once I did, and once everything was, once that interview was completed, the case was closed with insufficient evidence. I did not have a disclosure. I only had what Ingrid was telling me. I had denials from Michael, no physical evidence to support a sex abuse issue. There were no physical findings on her vaginal area, etc. And no witnesses. So at that time, we did not have enough. In July, another case was opened. Another case was brought up. It sounded like the same allegations. However, I spoke to the therapist. The therapist stated that she had a disclosure from Mariella, but as soon as the disclosure was made and she was trying to talk to Mariella alone, the session was cut off, and there have been no further conversations since then.
Oh. Who cut off the session, the mom?
I don't know. Yes, the mom did. I don't know if it was on purpose or whether it was a connection issue or a battle issue or something like that. I don't know why, but the therapist was attempting to talk to the child longer, but the session was cut off. I believe
it could have been the therapist that could have cut the session off, but we don't know.
Right. I don't know why it was cut, but that's what the therapist said, is that she was trying to talk to Mariella alone, and the session was ended. I closed my case. I was given some video to review from both parties on Michael's side and on Ingrid's side. I mean, they're concerning videos, but we can't take a video, we have to take it at face value. I mean, we don't know what's going on behind the camera, but I'm not going to get into a lot of the details on our investigation for that. But at the end of the day, it was decided that that case would be closed, and I let Ingrid know on the 25th, I believe. I did not make contact with Michael. And I did not re-interview Mariella because I did not feel it was necessary. They were the same allegations.
You contacted
The following day,
her on August 25th to tell her what?
that the case was closed, that we were not going to re-interview.
Okay.
The following day, Ingrid made contact with law enforcement again, making the same allegations. She stated that Mariella had come to her disclosing sex abuse again, and that the last contact was over the prior weekend. Sorry, I'm trying to look for the specific date, but it would have been within 5 days. So we interviewed her again. She did not provide a credible statement, and we interviewed him. We interviewed Michael again. He did not admit to anything. He denied any kind of abuse. Mariella went through another medical, which returned normal. No physical indications of sexual abuse. And we interviewed Ingrid again, and we closed it again.
That brings us, okay. So I was taking notes here, and I'll put it up here in the chat box, and can you let me know if this is accurate? On March 2020, there was an allegation of sexual abuse referred to Metro. The child Mariella made disclosure. Sexual abuse kit showed no findings. Later forensic interview showed no findings. A buccal swab was taken of Dad. Mom and Dad were interviewed. She made, detective made contact with Dad in June 2020. There was no abuse, no witnesses. And in July 2020, the detective spoke with the therapist. The therapist was trying to speak with the child alone, but the session was cut short. Detective Heredia closed her case. Dad provided videos to her. Mom provided videos as well. And then on 8/25, the detective contacted Mom and informed her the case was closed. The following day, Mom made the same allegations to law enforcement. Another interview of Mom, no credible statement. Another interview with Dad. He denied allegations. Another medical exam of the child showed normal findings. Is that accurate?
So we, in August, so just last week on 8/26, we conducted a forensic interview with the child again. He did not provide a credible abuse disclosure. So I've interviewed that child now twice. And just to let you know, there was an incorrect statement from the March investigation.
Okay.
Mariella did not disclose sex abuse in March. Mariella talked about normal hygiene practices from both parents.
All right. Disclose the hygiene practices. Okay. That's why I type things in the chat box to make sure the court has this right and the attorneys can kind of follow along with Mom and Dad. All right, so I made the corrections there to these important ones. Counsel, do you have any one or two questions of the detective? I'll start with the plaintiff first. That would be Mr. Turner's attorney. Mr. Freeman, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Robbins, do you have any questions of the detective?
I do. You said that the child on this most recent interview gave some type of disclosure, but it wasn't credible. Can you explain why you believe that was not a credible disclosure?
At this time, I don't feel comfortable elaborating in front of the parents. I am more than happy to explain that to the judge, but I don't feel comfortable answering that question right now.
Is it due to any kind of privilege or fear of harm to the child or repercussions to the child?
No. I believe
Your investigation?
I believe that if I answer that question, then I'm going to have another case reopened, and I will speak to the judge privately about that, but I don't feel like it's appropriate to answer in front of the parents.
Counsel, do you feel that it's important that I speak with the detective privately to determine that question?
Yeah.
I mean, I would just leave it with what I have today. I go with what I have. But if you have that opportunity now, if you want me to talk with the detective, I can put her out in a breakout room here and talk to her privately.
I do, Your Honor, because it sounds to me like the child did say something, but for whatever reason she just didn't believe the child. So I'd like to know why, basically what the child said and why she doesn't believe it.
I'm hesitating to talk with the detective without the presence of the attorneys. This is just a motion hearing today in terms of how I'm supposed to proceed. I don't know if there's a trial set in this case in an evidentiary hearing. If it is a trial, then obviously those matters will be taken under oath, and you may feel free to subpoena the detective for the trial. At this point, I'm going with what I have. I don't want to. And when the trial is set, do we have a trial set in this case? Let's check.
We don't. I've requested one, but we haven't set.
Yeah, I haven't made that determination yet pursuant to ruling, but with no other further questions for the detective, I can release her.
Yeah, I do have another question. Were there additional videos that were reviewed in between the first interview and the second interview, more specifically within the last 2 weeks or so?
Yes. So, in that initial investigation in June, I was showing videos from Michael in his interview. His criminal attorneys were supposed to get that to me. I never got them. In the process, I don't know what happened, if they didn't send them or they just didn't get to me, I don't know, but I never received them. So, being that those were not necessarily, they were evidence, it wasn't like they were evidence of a crime being committed, they were just kind of his opinions on what Ingrid was doing, or they were videos of what Ingrid was doing. I still closed out my case. They weren't relative to keeping this investigation open. Then in July, when the second investigation was opened, Ingrid provided videos that I have reviewed, and then I also made contact with Michael's criminal attorneys to say, hey, I never got these, can I get these as well? So I reached back out to them, and they did provide them. So now in July, I have the opportunity to review both parties' videos.
So there's been 3 investigations. Is this August the 3rd one? You have 3 investigations total?
I've had a total of 3 investigations, yes.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Rowland?
And one in August.
Yeah, March, July. I think I wrote that in the chat box. Let me know if that's accurate. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to be clear about the videos that Mom provided, that they were of the child and performing sexual acts on herself. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did that cause you concern for the child in any way? Those videos?
Yes, they're concerning videos.
Okay. I guess my next question would be then, do you believe that Ingrid is acting appropriately by reporting these things after seeing those videos?
Well, like I told her after the second, in July, when I told her we're not reopening this case, do I think it's appropriate the next day that she... No, I don't think that's appropriate, but there was nothing new. So, I don't know exactly what you're asking, I guess. I've detailed my investigation very clearly. They are concerning videos, but they are not the basis for another investigation. I don't know if that's what you mean.
Okay.
Any follow-up, Mr. Freeman?
There you go.
All right, with that, thank you, Detective Heredia. We don't want to keep you any longer. I know you have a busy schedule, and we'll release you from the hearing. Thank you for your appearance. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, counsel, we'll proceed based on what the detective had said. I'll take any other brief arguments, not rehashing everything that's brought to date. This hearing is to get that update from the detective and how you will argue to the court should proceed in the best interest of the child, the safety, well-being, etc. So it is Mom's motion, I believe?
Yeah, Your Honor,
Not rehashing the motion, just based on now that we've heard from Detective Heredia, what is it that you believe the court should do?
right. As far as setting an evidentiary hearing, I would probably say that, yes, there's not enough on Mom's side to go forward with an evidentiary hearing. Mom still has grave concerns, however, and so it's possible that this is going to come up again. I would not be surprised at all if this is going to come up again. But at this point, I don't believe that there's a reason to set an evidentiary hearing.
Well, let me ask you this, from the mom's perspective, can you give me a little history on how a therapist got involved, how long has the therapist been involved, who set up the therapist, etc.?
Yeah, I'll let Ingrid answer that.
You can hear it's on the recording.
Okay.
You did it already.
So when did you, Mom, when did you get the therapist? You have to unmute yourself. I think you're muted.
Yes.
Mom, can you tell me when did you first get a therapist involved? A year ago? Another? Did you? Go ahead.
A year ago. A year and a half.
Okay, a year and a half ago. And did you inform, before you got therapist, before the very first time you heard or saw your child doing things, did you immediately go to the dad and confront the dad? Hey, I'm seeing this. Hey, the child is doing this. The child is saying this. Did you do that?
Yes, we did. I told Michael that the little girl is doing sexual stuff, and then he just didn't look at my eyes. He just didn't say anything.
So when did you remember what year you told Dad that you noticed something different about the child?
Like around 2017. 2017.
What month?
April.
And then when did you get therapist?
When she was like 2. When she was 2 years old, I started getting therapy.
What month, what year?
Like in, I think 2017, 17.
What month?
Oh, I can't remember. Like, in summertime? April? Yes.
Summertime? 2017? Did you tell the dad you were going to get the therapist?
Well, I called him, but he never answers. He never answers me. He blocked me on his phone.
Okay, you're saying he blocked you?
Yes, he did.
Okay, so you went ahead and got the therapist by yourself?
Yes, the first time. The first time.
Okay. And then, so you're saying the first time was the therapist let go and then you got another therapist?
No, it was too much, so CPS gave me this therapist. No, CPS referred me to get this therapy, this new therapy that I am right now.
That's the one. What's the name of that one again?
Maria Sanias.
How do you spell that?
MERDA. Mercedes.
D-E.
Mercedes.
Mercedes, last name?
Sania, S-A-I-I-O-S. Sania.
Tanya?
Sanias, I'm sorry. Sanias.
And that's which is the current therapist? Did you tell Dad you were going to get Mercedes?
I called him, but I said, he blocked me. He doesn't answer my calls when I call him.
So for Mercedes, he still blocked your calls?
Yeah. I made multiple calls to him, and he didn't answer my calls.
Okay. And the child's been going with Mercedes for how long now?
A year and a half. This year, the beginning of this year.
Okay. And did Mercedes ever talk to Michael?
I think she called him because she asked for his number, and I gave her his number.
Okay. All right. And why do you believe the dad is allegedly not caring for the child properly in terms of this sexual behavior? You're saying it's happening in your house?
When she comes back from his house, she tells me that her dad is touching her. I'm not asking her. She just started acting really sexual when she comes back from his house.
Have you seen her do that with other children?
No.
And how often? How often?
When she comes back from his house.
And what is her what is she like when she's telling you that? Is she afraid of him? Is she crying, upset, or she just tells you he's touching her?
No, she started crying. She started crying and telling me what he did, what he's doing. She started crying and I'm telling her, why you're crying. And she's saying my dad is touching me. That's what she's saying.
Okay.
And she's showing me what he does to her.
And she shows you?
Yeah, she's showing me, she's talking and at the same time she's showing me what he does.
And then that's when you took the videos?
So I have proof so I can show it to someone, to the police.
Okay. All right. Anything else in there, Mr. Robbins?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that there are a few other issues, just in terms of their parenting that maybe can resolve with just orders that wouldn't necessarily need a trial, just some orders, including giving the child the medication. I provided some medical records to counsel. The child takes medication for constipation. Dad refuses to give the child the medication. And as a result, the doctor told mom to double up on the medication before going over to Dad's house. That was it in the medical records. So just an order that Dad actually does provide the medication, so that mom doesn't have to double up and then the child has diarrhea the whole time with Dad. That's been one of their issues. Also, the child has an inhaler. Every time that the child comes back, there's a counter on the inhaler. Mom can see that Dad's not giving the child the inhaler. So those types of things that maybe can resolve some of the tension between the parties on exchanges and visitations.
Did one of your lawyers submit to me the medical records?
Yeah.
Was it your office?
Yes.
And you didn't get it, you had it sent directly to the courts.
I'm sorry?
I'll put in the chat box. We received 75 pages of child's medical records.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was your office that had it sent to the court for in-camera review?
Yes.
Okay, you haven't seen it obviously as well, Mr. Freeman, correct?
I've seen it, yes. It was sent to me.
I did a e-service, yeah.
Oh, so okay, I just want to make sure both lawyers have access to the 75 pages.
Most of it was supplied during the last go-round of proceedings. There were only a couple of things from therapists that I hadn't seen before.
We did review it. There was several references to miralax and constipation.
Yeah, I can address that, though.
When I reviewed it, I didn't find anything like unremarkable in terms of sexual abuse in those medical records. Other than they do note that the mom is in a custody case. The mom is went to law enforcement. Her mom is fighting in court. They did make references, but I didn't see any actual medical findings on the sexual abuse. So I just want to make sure you both have access to the 75 pages. All right, Mr. Freeman, I'm just going to have you do your brief argument and see how we go forward. I think Mr. Robbins has taken the position that maybe at this point, mom doesn't have enough to go forward on a trial for a change of custody, and I think it's more like a wait and see, I guess. The detective said she didn't want to say something that she wanted to tell me privately, and I hesitated on that unless it really went to a trial. And her basis was, I'll put that in the chat box, that she didn't want to reopen another, it might be we want to have another investigation opened up. That's not number 4. They don't want to have a number 4 investigation. I think maybe the message is you got to have more than that. But on the other side of the coin, we've got detectives said, yeah, those videos are concerning, but they're not taking any action. So we heard what it says. Okay, what's Dad's position here?
Well, here's the thing. I think that everything needs to be viewed in light of years of history in this case. Mom is not credible. Everything she says, it's all lies. All of it. I've deposed her. I've dealt with her for years. When she says she took the child to the therapist a year and a half ago and then said it was April of 2017, that, I believe, is the month my client got arrested for alleged domestic violence against her. And so he blocked her call if he did because she was pursuing criminal charges against him for a fake story about domestic violence. And that went through the criminal court, as I mentioned last time, and they determined that Mom was not credible. You heard those same words from the detective today, that there's really no credible evidence of what Mom has reported now at least 3 times. I deposed Mom. Mom wasn't credible. The case fell apart for Mom last time when she was trying to move to Florida because of that. Counsel said he wouldn't be surprised if this comes back. I wouldn't either. We need an evidentiary hearing in this case. My client should have sole custody. He should have primary physical custody. Mom has issues. We've asked for a psych eval. Probably need to do a custody eval. I would be fine offering Gravely, Berquist, or Holland, as the court had mentioned last time, for those things. But the fact is, we have years of text messages between Mom and Dad, too. And when she was making these heinous allegations against Dad, she was still trying to get back together with him. She was still sending him nude photos. There's an issue. There's something going on with Mom. And it's when she's making these allegations that she's still trying to get back with Dad and do these things. Then there's these repeated allegations of sexual abuse, none of which have been proven. The first time we knew about the therapist was when I deposed her last year, so it was well after that. She had been sending text messages to Dad. None of those text messages talk about a therapist. Her excuse is Dad blocked me. How was she sending text messages to Dad's phone if Dad had her blocked? And I provided in the exhibit last time to the court, last year when she was sending those nude photos to Dad, she clearly was able to send texts. She wasn't telling Dad the child was in therapy at that time. So she comes in here today and the child's crying. She didn't say that in the depo either, that the child was crying, and that's how she found out. It's a big story that just keeps going and going and going, Your Honor. We have to have an evidentiary hearing, I think, in this matter. I think Dad has plenty of and we can provide plenty of proof that this is mom over the years alleging domestic violence, alleging sexual abuse, none of it being proven, her producing videos to the police. I believe she did produce those videos, and that's a problem because it's not coming from dad's end. And I'm going to disclose a video today to counsel of the child at the last visitation with dad, and you can see the relationship in that video of the child and the dad clearly. And the child's not afraid of dad, and the child's not worried about dad.
You say you have that video with you?
It's on my other computer.
Oh.
I'm on a laptop, but it's on the computer over here. But it's only like a few seconds, and it's dad, picking up the child from the bedroom. The child had run upstairs from breakfast, and the child, says something about mom, and dad says, "That's not nice, don't say that." But you can see the interaction between them, and she's not afraid, and he's holding her, and she's cuddling her on his chest. It's not something where the child would go home and cry and say that dad touched me. The other issues in terms of the medications, mom overdoses the kid on Miralax. This has been an issue for years. The doctor's medical records don't show anything because all of it is, when you go to a pediatrician and you say, "My child's constipated," the doctor has no way of determining whether that child is constipated or not. The doctor says, "Okay, mom, you're saying the child's constipated? Put the child on Miralax." Mom says, "Well, dad doesn't use Miralax." And the doctor says, "Okay, well, dad needs to use the Miralax." The child has diarrhea every single time she goes to dad's house. Why would dad keep giving her the Miralax? This has been going on for years. In terms of the inhaler and mom checking the meter dose, is this child on regular inhaler? What prescription is that a child needs regular doses of an inhaler? It's only when you're having a breathing problem or some sort of issue that you would take an inhaler. So are we just giving medicine?
Is the child diagnosed with asthma? A mild form of asthma?
I believe that
there's discussion of that in the medical records.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So the medical records, because mom just takes the child and dad doesn't know anything about it, are what mom tells the doctor, and then the doctor tells mom what she needs to do. But the doctor's taking mom at face value. It's not about a secondary assessment where the doctor's actually looking at the child and making a determination based on physical evidence of constipation. It's just a subjective thing that mom is telling him in those records. And the problem is, as I've stated, mom repeatedly lies over the years, and she's trying to take this child from dad if dad doesn't get back together with her. Dad hasn't gotten back together with her, and every time that he rejects her, new claims, new domestic violence, new you're sexually assaulting the child. None of it for years has ever been proven. I think we need an evidentiary hearing on that. And I think we need a psych eval, I think we need a custody evaluation.
And how would that serve the best interests of the child due to allegations of the parents' behavior and conduct, co-parenting, and presenting the other parent in the eyes of the child? Are you saying this is beyond? Obviously there's no findings of sexual abuse, but you're saying this type of conduct by mom is creating emotional or mental abuse for the child?
What mom is doing is abuse.
If we have a change of custody, what's going to happen? If we don't have this child, what's going to happen to the child? What is dad's fear? That the child will...
The child is going to continue to be overdosed on Miralax. The child is going to continue to be put in situations where she's taken for rape kits. She's going to have her blood drawn over and over again, which mom does. Mom will not tell dad about the therapist. Mom doesn't tell dad about the doctor's appointments. She just runs to court, runs to the police, runs to CPS, makes allegations, and the child is put there. The child is videoed to show what daddy does to her. Why is the child doing that? I would submit it's not because of dad. It's because mom is putting her through these paces. It's been going on for years. The child is being abused by mom. CPS isn't going to necessarily do anything if there's no way to prove it. But if she has a psych eval and it shows that there's some sort of underlying condition, which I'm not a doctor, but I would submit there probably is, and that she is overdosing the child on Miralax, that she's telling the child to make allegations, there's certain things that could come out in a custody evaluation with an evaluator who's going to see and talk to these people and understand, is this child being put through trauma on a daily or weekly basis because of the way mom is putting her through this cycle of allegations of abuse with nothing proven?
Okay. Any brief rebuttal, Mr. Robbins?
I think these parties need to just be able to work together a little better. There's obviously a lot of hostility from both ends here, and that they need to just get it together a little bit, maybe some type of co-parenting counseling rather than changing custody.
Okay.
If I can address that really quick, Your Honor.
Yeah.
These parties were going through or trying to have some therapy back in 2017 after they'd already split up. That's when my client was at her residence, and that's when she made up the fake domestic violence claim. So this joint therapy and co-parenting and stuff, it does not work with her. And settling it down and trying to resolve things, that's what we did in December. We did that in December. After she wanted to relocate, and we agreed, fine, Dad will have more time, but we'll call it me having primary, which is the case. Dad actually had more time. Since then, repeated CPS, repeated police, withholding the child, which we also have an order to show cause that the court hasn't ruled on. She withheld the child for a month and a half before we got into court. There's no basis for any of it. And my client is going through the same thing over and over again every year. So it's not something that he can just get along. And, I'm probably more irritated than he is, honestly, because I've been going through this for the last 3 years, too. And it's frustrating because we go through it and then we settle to try and just say, okay, let's just go back to something where you guys can try. She can't do it. And we need to know why.
Question pop up. Kind of percentage-wise, what is Dad's involvement with the child's medical appointments? Has Mom sort of taken over in terms of child's checkups, child's well checks, the mirror?
I think Mom did all of them. The last time we were in court, that was an issue because Mom had refused to tell Dad about any of the appointments. Mom had even told the pharmacist, and it said on the bottles, Mom is like her name only allowed to pick up. Dad couldn't even get the medicines if he wanted to. My understanding, Michael can maybe talk to this a little bit more in more recent times, but
Yeah. Why, if Dad was kind of, lackadaisical about that, why
he wasn't.
He wasn't. And he let it persist for over a year that Mom was in charge of all the medical.
No, she wouldn't tell him about it. He had a criminal case pending against him with criminal charges of domestic violence against her. He wasn't going to go to the doctor's appointments and have her cause problems, which is what happens. So that was going on during the last case that ended in December.
Okay. So it begs the question, would the court do any kind of temporary changes if I do set it for a trial? The other options leave things status quo with no findings of sexual abuse. And Dad is willing to fund the cost for a child custody evaluation?
Michael, you can answer that. Yes.
So you spoke with your attorney about the cost of that, so
Yes.
he wants this looked at. I don't have a crystal ball, obviously, but if I do a temporary change to, let's say, switch Dad to be in charge of medical, will the child's behavior stop? Will the child's behavior improve? Will these allegations not keep popping up if Dad took over the therapy, the medical, etc.? And this Mercedes therapist, Dad had no involvement with that because, of course, the pending DV case over his head, so he couldn't really assert his
We
legal.
didn't even know about that until her deposition, and then that was late last year.
So, Dad's concerned everything Mercedes hears is coming from Mom. Okay. But I believe it's adequate cause has been established. You set it for an evidentiary hearing in early 2021. You'll have lots of time for discovery. And yes, you have to go through the process, depositions and whatnot, dealing with the expert. And Mr. Robbins, are you willing to stipulate to a psychologist with Mr. Fleeman here? And Dad will front the costs without prejudice. pending the outcome of the trial.
Yeah, if you just want to pay for it.
We'll find you a date. Now, I want to do this on, change to file order setting evidentiary hearing, stack number 1, full day, and you've heard my speech about which judge you might get in the new year. To be rearranged. So, what month would you like it set before I make further orders? When will you be ready? I'll put you stack 1, we have May. We're out in May. Let me get there. I think it's as soon as, I don't think I have anything left in April.
Your Honor,
You want to say something to me, Mom? Yes. Okay. Well, yeah, usually I would tell you talk to your attorney first, but I guess we can't do it that way here. So if, Mr. Robbins, if you interject, at some point for your client, then feel free to interject, but just going to start talking, so I'll hear her out, if that's okay with you, Mr. Robbins?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Mom.
can we do a drug test on him today? The drug test?
And, okay, other than just asking for it, can you tell me why you suspect drugs?
Because he does drugs.
And what
The last time,
I believe there was a drug test ordered by the court in the past that had tested positive.
Mm-hmm. And but
This is
you
Cheryl.
haven't been with Michael for a long time, so he hasn't done anything in your presence. Where did you get any information that he's doing drugs? At a child custody exchange? Was he acting, funny, or he goes? Yeah.
the last time he did a drug test, he came positive.
Prior to the stipulation, months and months and months prior to the stipulation last year.
Like a year ago. And what was he positive for? Marijuana?
He had trace cocaine, I think, and marijuana.
Okay.
And EDD.
Might be enough to just do a checkup. Is Dad available to go before 5 o'clock today to ATI? Mom will pay for it. I mean, if he...
Your Honor, we went through this last time, and I know the court likes to order these if someone asks, but you just had motion, opposition, hearing, come back for a hearing. Mom understands that now it's on the table, and this is what she does. I need a drug test. She was fine settling this at the end of last year. This is what she does. This is her repetitive cycle, and this, granting these sort of things, and it's fine if he goes and does it today if that's what the court orders. This is what she does, and the court granting these things feeds into her loop of doing it over and over and over. It's happened for years.
I kind of like to do it as a checkup. I mean, speak now, Dad, if anything's going to come up positive, or you have a prescription you're taking, got to bring the prescription bottle. In a while, I know, but if Mom wants to, in your eyes, waste her money, then she will pay $136, whatever it costs. All it'll do is inconvenience your time to get out there and drop off your sample. It takes 5 minutes with an ID. And we get so nothing's going to show up. You're confident about that?
I have a prescription.
Okay, bring your prescription bottle and you just tell ATI, and then they'll verify that, and they'll say consistent with the prescription. So, all right, Dad.
Yeah, I think it's a pain med prescription because he broke his back pretty severely in the past. I think it was not fever, but yes. Oh, he broke his face.
Broke his back a long time ago. It's not today. He had...
Jeffrey, if you can hear me on the phone, can you call upstairs, pull a drug test referral form, Jeffrey Ann, fill that out, and then the JEA will help process and email it to both attorneys ASAP within the half hour, hopefully.
I'm filling it out for you, Judge. I'm filling it out now.
Good, okay,
Hearing
Mom needs support for that.
Judge Moss,
yeah,
is it for both or just Dad?
Mom pays, it's just for Dad.
Hair and urine?
Carolyn, thank you. I'll put my signature on there. And before 5 p.m. today at ATI, okay, he knows the place. And Mom will call in payment ASAP after hearing. Okay, and I'll let Jeffrey Ann catch up with that. I've selected. Are you available, Council, on May 22nd? You didn't give me May 22nd. It's a Thursday trial. Mm-hmm. May. Did we give it this morning?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry? Did we give that to this morning? I'm sorry. May 22nd. This set a trial for Brenda Levitt and Judy Ray.
What time was that? 9:22 at 9 a.m. Everything is moved. I have to look at my notes. Yes, let me look at that, Judge Moss. Hold on 1 second, please.
Sorry, we did a trial meeting. I don't know if they took it over or not. I think she requested April 22nd is available, not May. We don't need to, Jeffrey. They took May.
We gave away September 22nd.
That's a return date. Council, are you available on April 22nd? And I want my court clerk verify. April 22nd is a Thursday. You can have the whole day. Is that too soon? Maybe that might be too soon. That would be 8 months away from now. Can you get a custody evaluation? And then
I think it's fine.
Okay, April 22nd. I'll put it in the chat box. All right. Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. We start you at 9 a.m. for trial, usually 9 for setup. You want discovery closes 30 days prior? And your pretrial memorandums? PTMs? Is there any other special deadlines you want to disclose your witnesses, list the exhibits? But they're all included in your pretrial memorandums.
Right. I just think we need a date for the expert report and any rebuttal reports.
And they usually take about 90 days to turn around, but there's voluminous health records for the child. Maybe 120 will take us to, September, October, November, December, and then the Christmas holiday, we'll delay a few things. How about early February?
For the initial report?
Well, that would be the child custody evaluation.
Right, if they wanted to hire someone as a rebuttal or something, the rebuttal report would be due.
Yeah, we have to set that trial further out, like 2 more months out. I would say the initial should be early February 2021, possible rebuttal report.
I think the rebuttal could be early April.
Tell Susanna I have a form for because the judge wanted.
Early February, March, April, yeah. Early April, and then trial 1 or 2 months later.
I got another one for you to take up too.
June. So switch that. April, May, June. You want to stay on track with this? Okay, let me switch you out to June.
Hold on 1 second because I left
After Memorial Day, what's your preferences? We have June. Dates, Thursday or Friday for a full day. After Memorial Day, got June 3rd, we got June 4th, we got the 10th, 11th. School gets out by Memorial Day. June 17th, 18th. What's your preference?
I'm fine with early June 3rd, June 4th.
Okay, Mr. Adams?
That's fine. I'm not retained right now, so that's fine.
I don't have it. I got to find it. Okay. Unless I gave it to her. Did I give you the ATI before?
How about Thursday?
Yeah, that's it.
That might take 2 days.
Oh.
You want me to reserve 2 days for you guys?
Sure.
Okay, here.
June 3rd and 4th.
Okay. I'll let her know you
9
went
a.m.
upstairs with it. Okay.
That'll be Thursday and Friday. Okay, I put it up there. JA shall file an order setting evidentiary hearing. It's a 2 days. 2 full days reserved. Because you're going to have expert witnesses. Okay. Drug test, scrolling back here, did I cover all our requests?
I don't know if the child has been enrolled in school or is being enrolled in school. My client doesn't know either. Just as a...
Is the child preschool or kindergarten?
To school. Not to school.
Kindergarten?
Yes.
Public school.
Is she enrolled?
She's going to be enrolled.
So she's not enrolled.
Okay, the current custodial order is what? Right now. Is it joint?
The mom is designated primary, but dad actually has more time. And then it's joint legal.
I can do a shared custody right now temporarily on a trial basis, but I want to give, on a trial basis, try and switch the medical decisions to dad. I want him to choose a new therapist for Mercedes, to replace Mercedes, and I want to see if these same allegations keep popping up with the new therapist. And it will be, we can jointly select counsel the therapist, but I don't want to like really put it in your order because you want insurance to take, so I don't know if it's insurance or Medicaid. So, counsel will select joint therapist. So, Attorney Freeman to give 3 names. Does dad have the health insurance or is it Medicaid?
It's Medicaid.
Okay, on Medicaid, that accepts Medicaid, 3 names for Medicaid. And Attorney Robbins to select 1. Your lawyers work pretty well, so you can get this selected within a week.
That's fine.
Yes. Select no later than a week from Friday, which would be the 11th, 9/11. No later than 9/11. Okay, and then dad shall have temporary sole legal custody over medical decisions and appointments. Mom still has limited rights to access medical records and talk to healthcare providers for the child. Not keeping her out, but I want dad to kind of be in charge to make the medical appointments. And so that's a big responsibility, and dad will take that over now for well checks, checkups, etc. So we'll see if we can, 1, keep up with that, 2, make appropriate decisions medically for the child, 3, we'll have a joint selection on a therapist to see if these court wants to see with child statements, child checklist, sexual behavior will stop. Okay? Or diminish, I don't know. But we'll have that on a cover level playing field. So we'll do a switcheroo there. And we'll do temporary joint physical custody. Okay, so with the schooling, that's another issue. If mom if that's okay with mom being in charge of the school, and he has equal rights to know about the school, the records, etc., because he'll be busy with the medical portion, and mom busy with the school portion, but dad has equal rights to the schooling and virtual schooling and all that. Okay, Mom, you have a question?
Yes, I do. The other one was the doctors, anything, but I can never be involved
You can start all over
in
again.
anything.
Well, there's he said, she said, Ingrid. He said, she said, whether or not you tell him about the doctors. So if you don't tell him about the doctors, then she's going to start all over again and get a whole new set of doctors. But if it's simple, if you say these are her doctors, then continue to go. Yeah. Okay, Mom can still be in charge under joint legal custody for school selection, though. But both parents responsible for virtual schooling. I don't know if they'll do in person. And that's part of co-parenting, Mom. Mom should transmit all school information. Do they have that parenting app? An app close? Are they on a parenting app?
I don't think they have a parenting app, but they probably should be on one. They're not on Talking Parents or FinWizard or Talk Close.
Okay, parents shall sign up, and it has calendar function for school events and stuff. Shall sign up on app, those immediately, and link their accounts. It's free on the App Store, and child issues only. Okay, don't talk about your past relationship issues. Don't talk about trying to get back together. Don't criticize them if they're, don't tell them how they are as a parent. Child issues only. Hey, there's an appointment. Hey, we're running a little late for the exchange, or hey, can we switch those days? Hey, there's a medical appointment. Okay, there's an open house for school, or there's some virtual event. Lawyers, you explain that to them, okay? They'll get on app close. So Dad's in charge of medical, Mom's kind of in charge of schooling, but they're both still responsible. But when it comes to medical, Mom can send all the doctor names to Dad on app close. That can be the pediatrician, the GI specialist. They have one, but we're going to start with a new therapist. Okay.
Your Honor,
I have a question. The therapist hadn't made contact with the dad, and it's he said, she said if the dad knew about Mercedes and then contacted Mercedes immediately, hey, I'm the dad, can you tell me what's going on with my child? And it's been going over for a year without a single involvement from Dad, because CPS gave the name to Mom, and Dad was not told about Mercedes this whole year and a half. Is that correct, Mr. Freeman?
That's correct.
All right. Well, that'll be a trial issue, credibility issues, but I think it's fair to just start all over. We'll jointly select the therapist so everybody's involved. Mom talks to the therapist. I'm the mom. Dad talks to the therapist. He's in charge of setting that up. I'm the dad. Mom and Dad express your concerns to the therapist, and this therapist needs to kind of bond with the child to get effective therapy. The last thing I want to do is we want this child's behaviors to continue. We want to make things better. We want the child to stop doing this behavior, stop making it. We don't want it to persist. We want to make it better for the child to address why she's doing this behavior. Okay? And we want to help the child. But if a parent is doing something just to get back at the other parent, that's bad parenting. And if that comes out at trial, we will lose custody. I'll make it clear, we will lose custody. Okay? So, we want to get the child help, and I'll put Dad in charge. Dad, kind of join with your rights to getting your records, etc. But if there's a dispute, Mom and Dad have a dispute, Dad gets the